Alright duelists, it is I, Hellgear, and I'm showing off my Cyber Dragon deck today. So, we get a Cyber Dragon deck profile. With a lot of the cards coming out in reprints, the deck is a bit more available, and it's around a semi-budget deck. And everybody has their take on our meta's OT King of the Rogues, and I'm finally showing off mine. So, show your love with a like and a sub. Comment down below, give your critiques as always, and I want to be sure to hear your comments so I can better increase this deck later. For the longest time, and just as a little bit of an admission here, for the longest time I've run like a low rent version of this deck because a lot of the cards in this archetype are rather expensive, and if you're on that boat, you know, money's a little bit tight, I have some alternatives for you guys, you know, so it doesn't hurt your wallet as much. As per usual, we start out with the bread and butter himself, 3 Cyber Dragons. I love the second edition look of this card. And I know a lot of duelists like the original version of Cyber Dragon, but the dark version per se, you know, the dark one, I really do like how this card is. You run 3, everybody knows that. The rest of the family is considered Cyber Dragon while they're on the field and in the graveyard, as we all know. So, I have 3 Proto Cyber Dragons. Yeah, I'm still running the Proto Cyber Dragons. Most duelists will use Naxter in place of this. And like Naxter, it's still considered a Cyber Dragon in the graveyard and on the field. You don't get the fancy special summoning properties with it, but it still has its uses for what you need to do in the deck. I got 2 Cyber Dragon Core and 2 Hertz. I know a lot of duelists will run both of these cards at 3, and they are good, but one thing I've learned about this deck is you mainly use these guys for the machine dupe OTK, more often Core. But don't get me wrong, they're good. You know, Core is the search for the deck. I can even bring back a Cyber Dragon. Hertz can count as a level 5 and even recurring from the graveyard. You have all rights to make these at 3, but the third copy of each of these, when I would play this, never seems to come up. And if it does come up, it's a brick. And you know how duelists don't like to make their houses with all these bricks. All those bricks. Alright, so let me move these out of the way. Next up, and I want to thank all of my German friends and family for telling me the proper name of saying this card. We have 2 copies of Cyber Dragon Fear. That's right, Fear, even though it's spelled with a V. Just to those who don't know, Fear is the German word for the number 4. And essentially it is a free summon. I like to combine it with my 2 copies of Cyber Dragon Dry. So, again, they both count as Cyber Dragons while on the field in the graveyard. Dry is a free summon. Wait, is this the one that's treated as level 5? Yes, okay, so, yeah. When you summon Dry, all your monsters are treated as 5, but you're locked to machines for the turn. And Fear is an easy special summon. Once you have a Cyber Dragon, you special summon to the field in defense. It's another Cyber Dragon you can get on the board. They combo very well. And from what I've been seeing, Cyber Dragon Fear is getting a bit more love now. On to the temporaries, we have 2 Galaxy Soldier. Remember when duelists ran this at 3 in their decks? Boy, times have changed. Cyber Elton in because it is the board breaker. You know, it's the board breaker of the main deck. Everybody knows that when it comes to the board breaker of the extra deck, they use our good friend Mega Fleet right here. So, more about that on the extra deck. Alright, so I have a tech card right here that I've been playing in this deck. Not too many people use this little bit of a tech card, so I'd like you guys to comment down in the comment section below what you think this tech card is. And I'll give you a hint. Even Zane Truesdale himself used this one. Give you guys a good 5 seconds to figure out what this card is in the comment section below, and then I'll reveal it to you. Here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the correct answer is Cyber Valley. Now, this is a little bit out of the time for a current duelist, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about Cyber Valley. It has 3 effects, and you can use one of them. When this card is targeted for an attack, you banish it, draw 1 card, and then end the battle phase, which is one of the better effects. This first effect is the one that you'll use the most. Let's see. Target a face-up monster on the... Wait, is it on the field? Yeah. Target a face-up monster you control and this card, banish them and draw 2 cards. Or you can target a face-up monster you control and one that your opponent controls? No. Target a card in your graveyard, banish a card, and 1 card in your hand to place this on the top of the deck. You're not going to recur this card to the top of your deck as often. More times than anything else, you're using this as a staple play for the banish and negate attack. So essentially, it's a main deck version of Link Karibo without the attack point drop, and it ends the battle phase. A really good card for going first, and that's something that Cyber Dragon decks don't like to do. You know. Now, for an interesting little play, sip my water there because I'm a little bit thirsty. I run 2 copies of Alistair the Invoker. Yeah, I'm running a small invoked engine here. And the funny thing about it is Alistair works pretty well, especially since you can go into invoke Mechaba, and Mechaba is a light machine. Last monster are 2 copies of Cyber Pharaohs. Now this came out of Legendary Duelist 3. So essentially what it is it's Cyber Dragon's variation of Ancient Gear Hunting Hound. Once per turn, you can fusion summon a machine from your extra deck using this card and monsters in your hand and on the field as tributes. When a fusion monster you control is destroyed while this card is in your graveyard, you can banish it from your graveyard and add a power bond from your deck to your hand. The search for power bond is nice and all, but it's a really good level 1 card, easy fusion, and it combos well with Alistair the Invoker. Plus, it's 2100 defense, so it'll be able to take a swing from Salamangrate's Sunlight Wolf. That's all for the monsters of the main deck. Let's get into the spell game. I'm going to start the spell game off with my fusion engine. As I already said, Power Bond is searchable by Cyber Pharaohs. I do use instant fusion, as you can see. There is a target in my extra deck for instant fusion. Fusion substitute is essentially polymerization, but you can recur it from the graveyard and a fusion monster in your extra deck to draw a card. And Cyberload Fusion is one of your pricier cards. It's a fusion that you can do during battle by returning the fusion material monsters to the deck, but it's the only monster that can attack for the turn. So you'll usually use Cyberload Fusion last after you've done your attacks, and then Cyberload Fuse into something like Twin Dragon and go ahead. Now this card is $30, so if you don't have a Cyberload Fusion, Super Polymerization works just as well. We all know about Power Bond and Overload Fusion. We go into Overload for Chimera Tech and, you know, Power Bond as it is. 1 copy of Cyber Rev System. It's the Monster Reborn. Gotta love that. 2 copies of Emergency. This is our searching spell. I would say it's like the Rhoda for this deck. 2 copies of Repair Plant. I know a lot of people don't really play this at 2. Some of them play it at 1. I do like to use its effects. And you can get its multiple effects for the numbers of Cyber Dragons you have on the board. 2 copies of Machine Dupe. I'm going to be real with you. I take a lot of heat for 2 copies of Machine Dupe. But Machine Dupe is really all you need at 2. Running 3 of these is a 3rd brick. And more times than not, when you make your hands, Machine Dupe is either going to be already in your hand, or it'll be the first spell that you draw. And after turn 4 at the latest, this card isn't really useful. I got 1 Mystical Space Typhoon. I want to update this to Cosmic Cyclone or Twin Twisters. If you guys want to run it, you can use those instead. I run 2 copies of Super Strident Blaze. This is an interesting equip spell card. Equip only to a machine fusion monster. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects during your battle phase. At the end of the damage step, if the equipped monster attacks an opponent's monster, you can banish a Cyber Dragon monster from your graveyard, and there are many of them in there. The equipped monster can attack an opponent's monster again in a row. Your other monsters cannot attack the turn you activate this card. So it's another one of those cards that allows you to swing at your opponent again. Very useful with Cyber Twin Dragon to let it swing 3 times and close out games. And of course, some trap game action. Obviously, I'm running 1 Spell Shield Type 8. This is an old card. Essentially, it has 2 ways of using it. If it targets a monster you control, if a spell targets a monster that you control, you can negate the activation and destroy it. Or it's Magic Jammer, where you discard a card because it wants to take out another one of your spell or traps. 1 negate attack because it's negate attack and it's great. And the textbook, 2 copies of Cybernetic Overflow. And with all of the various levels of Cyber Dragon in here, you've got 5 for the original Cyber Dragon, you've got 4 for Dry, 4 for Fear, 1 for Hurts, 2 for Core, and even 3 for Proto Cyber Dragon. You can essentially blast up to 5 cards on your opponent's board, which is really great. Really great stuff to have here. So that's the main deck in a nutshell. Let's go into the extra deck. First and foremost, I got 1 copy of the Twin Dragon. I'm glad duelists are taking this card and putting it back into their deck. By itself, it is an OTK engine, 2800 body that can swing at your opponent twice. I'm glad that duelists are bringing this back. Thank you, Legendary Duelists 3. 1 copy of Cyber End Dragon. Yes, 2nd edition Cyber End Dragon. It's still a 4K body that you can roll with. Love it. It does its joys. Now, this next one is one that Cyber Dragon duelists aren't really playing in their extra deck. And it's one of the pricier cards, I will admit. This card runs about $25, but it is worth its weight in gold. And that is 1 copy of Cyber Eternity Dragon. Now, to make Cyber Eternity Dragon, you need 1 Cyber Dragon and 2 machine monsters. And it's a 2800 attack with 4,000 in the back. So it can take a swing at a lot of cards. Now, if there are fusion monsters in your graveyard, this card cannot be targeted or destroyed by your opponent's card effects. If this fusion summoned card you control is sent to your graveyard, you can special summon 1 Cyber Dragon from your hand or deck or graveyard. And you can banish this card from your graveyard, and when you do, for the rest of the turn, fusion monsters you control cannot be targeted or destroyed by your opponent's card effects. For 25 bucks, it is worth its salt. I do suggest you guys get 1 of these. Even if you do side deck Cyber Eternity Dragon, it's also a really good going first option from the extra deck. 1 copy of Rampage Dragon. We all know how good that is. 1 copy of Fortress Dragon, self-explanatory. The extra deck Board Breaker and Mega Fleet. 1 Invoked Mechaba, because it is an Omni Negate, and it's another disruption for the deck. Panzer Dragon, because it is the insta-fusion target. 2 copies of Cyber Dragon Nova. Now, here's the funny thing. A lot of people will take their copy of Cyber Dragon Nova and they'll go into Infinity. Gotta love the new edition from Dual Overload. A lot of people will go into Infinity off of Nova right out the bat. But sometimes I like to keep Cyber Dragon Nova around because when it gets tagged by a card effect, you can actually special summon a Cyber Dragon machine fusion monster, Cyber Dragon, from your extra deck. So if Nova gets hit for something, you can bring back your twin. You can bring back your twin. You can bring Edge. You can even pull Cyber Eternity Dragon out, which is really, really good. So even though Infinity gives you that sweet, sweet disruption, don't always go into it. Bait out your opponent's effects and try to pull out the sweet, sweet Twin Dragon. You can actually stun a lot of folks doing that. 1 copy of Cyber Dragon Sega. Gotta love this guy. One of the key opponents of the Machine Dupe OTK. Actually is a key component in a lot of OTKs. And it's because it can boost up a Cyber Dragon to 4200. 1 Gaia Saber the Lightning Shadow, because it's a machine at Link 3 and it's a 2600 body. And a Link Karibo to round out the extra deck. I know it's 14 cards, but I want to get a little something extra for the last piece. I'll even show you guys what I have in my side deck and then get into a couple of plays. So I have a 3rd Pharaohs, very, very nice there. Golden Homunculus kind of saved me back in the day because you can use Overload Fusion to banish monsters and it gains 300 attack for every banished card. Is it every banished card or every banished monster? Okay, 300 attack and defense for each of your banished cards. So if you banish for Mega Fleet using Overload Fusion, or like back in the days you banished a lot of cards for Fortress Dragon, you can actually have this guy pretty beefy and it can swing. I run 1 copy of Falcon Beta. Yeah, the old school Gradius ship here. Here, kind of use this for like protection, which you can send. How does this work again? Jesus. Let me zoom that in for you guys. Okay. If this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, activate one of these effects. Send a light machine monster with 1200 attack or less from your deck to the graveyard. So it's a Foolish Burial. It can get core into the graveyard pretty well. So you can use its effects, or hurts for that matter. Target a light machine monster with 1200 attack or less in your graveyard and special summon it. So again, it can get you core and hurts. And even Naxter. Reflect Bounder because it's funny. Fountain in the Sky, simply because it gives you life points back for, does this give you back life points? Yeah, it's a life point game for banishing monsters. So, when a light monster is destroyed by battle and sent to your graveyard, you can banish it to gain life points equal to its attack. Shine Palace because it increases 1 light monster by 700 attack points. Waking the Dragons because this is how I bait people out with Overflow. Because if you set an Overflow on your first turn, but you set Waking the Dragons instead and they hit it with either Twin Twisters or Lightning Storm, it's a free extra deck summon. More times than not, you'll either get Cyber and Dragon on the board or one of your Dovas. And if you have a fusion monster in your graveyard, you can pull Eternity and get the sweet, sweet non-targeting, non-destroying effects. I told you guys I had a low rent build. Who plays Waboku in 2020? I do. Dimensional Prison, it's Sakuretsu armor but banishes. So let me show you some ideal going first plays. Normally most duelists, when they play Cyber Dragon, they'll play like some overflows on their first turn and they'll pass. You know, that's the typical going first thing. But one of the things that I like to do is you can set things up for invoked Mechaba. So one of the things you can do is you can normal summon Cyber Pharaohs, use Cyber Pharaohs' effect to send Alistair the Invoker to the graveyard from your hand, as well as Pharaohs from the field, and you can pull Invoked Mechaba on your turn, put your overflow down, and pass. You can even fortify this a little bit more if you use Machine Duplication on your Pharaohs. That way you'll get 2 of them in the main deck, or if you sided in the third one, you'll have essentially an easy link 3 into, well, no, you won't have the link 3 into Gaia Saber. That was the old play. You'll have these 2 out. You'll have this one's in defense position at 2100. You'll use the other Pharaohs' effect to go into Mechaba. Another interesting play is the double fusion first turn board. So essentially you'll play instant fusion. You'll use instant fusion. Use instant fusion's effect, and you special summon your Panzer Dragon. Where is my Panzer Dragon? There we go. We have our Panzer Dragon off of instant fusion. Then you go into, Jesus. You normal summon Dry. Then using its effect, you special summon Fear. And from here, if you have another form of fusion, whether it's like polymerization or, which again, fusion substitute, you use another form of fusion, you can go into your Cyber Eternity Dragon. And because you fusion summoned it, it gets the effects. And with Panzer Dragon in the graveyard, it's essentially protected from your opponent's card effects and being destroyed by targeting or destroy. If you know your opponent isn't pulling out a really big threat, you can special summon it into attack position. Otherwise, you can special summon it on the defense, and it's 4K wall that will give your opponents a rough time to swing at. And with Panzer Dragon in the graveyard, Eternity Dragon is protected from Boral Sword stealing its attack points. Well, it's cutting its 1400 attack points. So you have a little bit of a wall there. That's my Cyber Dragon deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully it gave you a few pointers on what to do as far as going first, because Cyber Dragons really don't like to go first. Maybe you guys will use Cyber Valley as a bit more of a defensive tech for your going first builds, because again, it is a negate attack plus draw plus Link Karibo all in one, and it's a wonderful card to have. More deck profiles are on its way, including an update one to this one, so be sure to subscribe and turn on those mobile notes. So when it's time to do some more deck profiles for you guys, we'll be ready to go. But for now, I take my goose from the oven because I'm done. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.